Therapy never became more important than real life.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So she never missed a play date.
Yeah.
She never missed a sleepover or a birthday party. School holidays, zero therapy ever happened in those early years because we would even have don't tell your physiotherapist. But we didn't wear AFOs.
That confession's come through.
Yeah, I know, she told you.
Well, hello everyone. I'm so glad you decided to join us for another episode of Therabytes. I am here today with who I will call my friend, and friend for quite some time. She is the mother of the most impressive Emily Pryor, who you heard on the podcast just a few weeks ago. And so it is my absolute privilege to be able to introduce you all to this person's mother, Jen Pryor. Hello, welcome.
Hello, Dana. That was a fantastic introduction. Thank you.
Oh, there's so many things there because there's obviously how we know each other, which was through Em, but then it sort of branched off from there a little bit as well, hasn't it?
It did. And I think I feel really lucky that it branched off because I remember when I first met you with Em, I'm like, I really like this person and I know there's a boundary with therapy and, that I can't be your friend. But yeah, I'm super glad that
it evolved, didn't it?
It
because
did.
I think back then, way back then, therapy services were very different. It was a completely different landscape. There was no NDIS, which is probably many people can't even imagine what that would have looked like. But it just meant we're all at the same centre together.
It did.
And it did also mean that you didn't have much choice and control of your therapist either. So you would go through phases, wouldn't you? So you had me for a very short period of time.
I know.
And then you'd go through different therapists and I'd be like, oh.
I know. I was devastated.
Yeah. But then that gave us the opportunity to get to know each other more outside of that. Yeah.
It did.
I would have to say that I have learnt, and I've said this about Em as well, I've learnt so much from her. She's been a great teacher to me, but even more so, you have been not only a great friend, but a great teacher for me because you just align. I don't have a child with cerebral palsy, but I spend a lot of time with children and with parents with children with cerebral palsy in various diagnoses, and I never want to be disingenuous and I always want to be authentic. And so I find myself aligning with you so much so that I understand what the needs are. And to such an extent where, if people don't know, fun fact, when we started Healthy Strides, Jen was part of the startup team to make sure that we were all on track.
Absolutely.
And actually meeting the need.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's what I did.
But, you did indeed.
That
you
was
steered
it was a great role to be there at the startup of this incredible organisation. I'm excited about that.
All those years ago.
I know.
And,
it was just a dream.
It was. It really was.
Yeah.
There was nothing that was materialised just yet, but there was that, and there was also the fact that you've come to Malaysia with me before.
Yes, I have.
And
I love it when those photos pop up on my memories.
That's right.
That was a whole new experience, an introduction to eating. It's dinner foods for breakfast.
That's right. Yeah, you have noodles for breakfast.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around this. So it was great. I loved Miri.
It was just such a beautiful time, and again, just reflects over the years how much I've learned from you, and I think when we were going through all the F words and planning it out, and obviously we came to family, I knew I wanted to speak with you because when it comes to family, a big broad term, I know, because family can be your blood relatives, but they can also be your non-blood as well.
Yep.
And I think that's really important. We spoke a bit about that when I introduced the topic of family. But when it comes to managing family within all the pressures there are with a child with a disability, unexpected and all the things that come with that, I thought, okay, let's talk about that. And 3 words come to mind that I want to make sure we cover today, and I hear them all the time here is balance. What the heck even is balance? And I don't mean the stand on one leg balance. I mean just the life balance. Guilt.
Yep.
Comparison.
Yep.
Those come up all the time. And with social media now, comparisons happen
huge
in all realms.
And a big impact too.
Massive, massively so. So I want to cover all of those topics. And to all of our listeners, I am covering it all. Kate isn't just not saying anything. She actually isn't here. I do need to tell everyone. I remember, this is an audio podcast. You can't see. So Kate, unfortunately, isn't in here today, but she's sent me a list of questions. So do not worry. All the questions you all have, I'll make sure I ask. But those are the 3 words. But I want to start, first of all, with the word disability, which is often a really hard word to say. Can you walk us through that journey and that word that can be so hard to say in the early days?
Absolutely. I was actually reflecting on a few things that I thought you might talk about when you said, hey, Jen. And I would absolutely say in the very early day of diagnosis, so we were told really early in the journey, around about 4 weeks of age, that we would most likely have cerebral palsy in our lives. I remember thinking about back at that moment how overwhelming that news was.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was just so much that my child was going to have a disability, but I was around 30 years of age. And when I looked back over my 30 years of life, I never saw people who were disabled. I didn't go to school with people who were disabled until I was in later high school. And I wish I knew then what I know now. But so I didn't grow up with disability. I didn't see disability. And the only thing that I saw or heard about disability was the narrative that society was telling me. And that was that being disabled was a tragedy or a burden. I saw worst case scenarios of what disability might look like. And so that is overwhelming because you don't know what it's going to mean to you, your child, your family. So when you've had your whole life being told this certain way, then naturally you do feel that way about disability. So in the beginning it was hard because I'd always been told a certain thing or shown a certain way. So it was really then changing my mindset about how I thought about disability. And I always use sort of the analogy that when you break your arm, you have an x-ray, you know it's broken, it's in a cast. 6 weeks later, your arm is going to be perfectly fine. But when you're told your child is going to have a physical disability, it's like, well, we're not quite sure. It's going to take until she starts missing these major milestones, and then we don't know if this will be involved or this. So you have to wait. And it's that fear of the unknown. That you don't know what it's going to look like. And that's worse than the actual.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Because you just don't know.
That's true.
And so once we started really knowing what that disability would look like, it was like, it was a change. And yes, I admit the word was hard in the beginning because of what society had told me about disability. And then that was something that was really important to me to change the way I felt about disability, because how I felt about it reflected on my beautiful child. And there was absolutely no way that I ever wanted her to feel pitied or a burden or a tragedy. I never wanted her to feel that way, and I never wanted anybody else to feel that way. So I was like, I'm a disabled mum and, or mum of a child with a disability, and I'm proud. And, so I wanted to become a really good disabled ally, I guess, and to do the best possible thing for my child. And I remember, obviously, I have 2 children, and I know my other daughter has spoken about it, so that's the only reason I'll mention it, is that I had a second child diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 4. And I remember when the doctor said to me, are you sure you want me to, write down this? I'm like, absolutely. Like, she's got cerebral palsy. Definitely write it down.
So I remembered that time.
Yeah, well, I do, because so I remember I knew that she had CP and I had people had a look at it, and it wasn't until I came to you and I'm like, Dana, I am positive she has cerebral palsy, or she's got a brain tumour, and I really hope it's cerebral palsy.
I remember that so clearly, because it was on one side, her toes are facing in.
Foot flap, it was a foot drop, it was funny.
That's right.
And I was just like, I know she does. So I remember, I was like, I'm all over this disability thing. This is cool. Yes, she does have CP, and I'm happy that she, that she does. So the word disability, I think, unfortunately, it's had years and years and years of negative connotations. So it is difficult to for people who aren't living it or in it or surrounded by it. They see what society tells them. So I think that's why it's really important for us to show it's none of those things. And I love when my daughter says, "Oh, yeah, I'm disabled."
Yep.
Because that's a part of who she is.
Who she is, that's right.
So,
nothing to be embarrassed
No,
about. Nothing to,
absolutely not.
it's not to
No.
be, you talk about it. And how early on do you talk about it with her? That has been a question from one of the families. It's like, when do I start talking about it?
Absolutely. I think the thing that I look back and I love is that they just thought they were like everyone else.
Yes.
So obviously when they're little, and they're babies, that's just their life and what it is. So I don't think it was sort of when we started going to school because we started going, you need your walker to help you because your muscles aren't as strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we always talked about it and, why aren't my muscles strong? Well, because when you were little you had a little bleed in your brain and that affected the way your muscles work.
Yeah. And
so that was as simple as we spoke about it at home because obviously, we had equipment that none of her siblings had. She wore AFOs, which her twin sister was devastated because every time, I've got this photo, it's so cute, every time Em got a pair of new AFOs, Reese thought it was a present. And I've got this photo of Reese desperately trying to get her foot into Em's AFOs. It's so cute.
Gorgeous.
So we had equipment. So obviously, but I think we've just had the most beautiful journey in that my kids treat each other all the they just treat each other as siblings, but they're rat bags with each other too. I remember times where Em would sit in the pram when we had our youngest son, and my youngest son would use the walker. And then he would stop and he would just start walking off without the walker. And I remember this lady going, oh, wow, he can walk really well without his walker. And I'm like, well, he should because he doesn't need it. But, he grew up learning how to walk behind Em's walker.
Wow.
So that's how he learned how to walk with a walker.
Yep.
So we just used equipment in our house and we let other kids. It was never, no, you can't touch that. It was like, if Em doesn't need it, it's all good.
Yeah, true.
All of our kids' friends grew up using her walker, using her standing frame, in her wheelchair. Everybody was using it.
Right.
Yeah.
And by doing so, everyone understands what it's for.
Absolutely.
And it's not like, it's a different thing.
It wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So, I've got all these photos of, I think Reese tried to go down the steps strapped into Em's wheelchair.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm like, just wait there because I have to document this. This is funny, as all parents do, of course. I think disability in our house, became something that it was a word. It was an identity.
Yeah.
And it was a part of our daughter, and we loved every single part of her.
Beautiful.
It was just who she was.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to be, this proud disabled woman.
Yeah.
And the only way that I can ensure she is a proud disabled young woman is that I feel equally as proud and disabled of who she is.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. And I think the word that comes to mind as well when you talked about that, you're talking about the arm, when you break an arm and you can fix it by putting something on. I imagine the word fixing it is part of, it kind of goes hand in hand with disability as well, isn't it? Can you talk us through that a little bit? Because there's a lot there.
There is a lot there. And I guess it throws back to, she was born and we, Em has shared her story before, so she was obviously born 11 weeks early, and that really started a journey of fixing really early on. So we were obviously involved with a lot of physiotherapy in the early days, but I think as a baby that was it was quite easy in that it was more about, prior to turning 1, it was more about how I could handle her, move her, do all of the things to help her.
Yes.
So that was fine. But then I think when you sort of venture into, you're officially diagnosed and then you're thrust into this world of, rehab appointments, Botox, AFOs, physios, we need to do serial casting or, you're going to need surgery. It's this life of we're trying to fix, you're broken, so we're trying to fix you.
Yeah.
And I think that what happens with that is, as a parent, then you think, oh, my God, I'm not doing enough to help fix my child.
Yeah.
So then you're comparing to other families about they're doing this, this and this, and I'm not, I'm only doing this. So that's, one sort of aspect.
Yeah.
But I got to this stage where I felt everything that we're doing is trying to fix her cerebral palsy. It was like a treatment to fix her. And I just felt like that sent a really damaging message to her that, hey, you're not perfect, you're broken, so we're going to fix this part about you.
Yeah.
And the reality is she has cerebral palsy. She has brain damage that gave her a diagnosis of CP. I don't think we've had any medical advance that we can take away CP that I know of.
No.
Although I do remember once Medicare ringing me. Was it Medicare? No, it was Centrelink rang me to see if my daughter still had cerebral palsy. And this is in the early days.
How well informed are they?
Okay, so just so you know, if I don't, you'll be the first to know because it'll be a miracle.
Right, yes.
So I really, and I remember feeling that way probably around 3 or 4 when she was starting to go to school.
Sure.
And the older she got, especially moving into those preteens, I just felt like I felt like every treatment or management of CP was trying to fix her. Yeah. And I didn't want to fix her. She's not broken.
Yeah.
She just she has a disability and that affects the way she walks or she moves.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean she's broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just really mindful of those messages of what, treating her meant. So I think what sort of started to happen in our family is if we are spending all of this time trying to fix you, we're taking you away from your community. We're taking you out of your school. We're taking you away from your family and we're telling you you're not perfect. Whereas that's not what I wanted. Yes. I want her to be involved in her community. I want her to be able to be at school so she can make friends and be with her friends and, love spending time at school and learn because learning's important. Yeah. So I sort of in primary school and then especially high school where I know you spoke to Em and I feel like I haven't really been involved in parenting her for about the last 6 years. It's been awesome. But therapy never became more important than real life.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So she never missed a play date.
Yeah.
She never missed a sleepover or a birthday party. School holidays, zero therapy ever happened in those early years because we would even have don't tell your physiotherapist. But we didn't wear AFOs.
That confession's come through.
I know, she told you. But we had breaks where it was you know what, you're not wearing your AFOs and you know what, you can WSIT because I know that makes playing your toys with your toys easier, but don't tell them. So it was hands off.
Yes.
It was real life.
Yes.
When it was our family quality time. So weekends, holidays, whatever. We tried to do as much as we could after school, but, having a disability and having a disability as a physical disability is tiresome. So, I know she'd be in the car and fast asleep at 3:15. So I'd be like, it's not going to work. But I know that as she got older, it got harder for therapy to happen in anything that was outside what she considered her time. Sure. And so that's where, as a parent, I really just step back and going, well, that's important to you, so that's what we're going to do. Yep. And there's some amazing people with disability in our community that when you're a parent and you have no idea, you try and start listening to these people who have a lived experience.
You've been doing it,
and so I'm going, okay, I'm going to listen to that. That's important to know. I'm going to take that on board. Yeah. And so Em's disability, well, that's her disability. She is going to live with that for the rest of her life. So me being in control of what happens here, it actually disempowers her. So she's never going to continue on with that if she doesn't have full control and ownership. She has to be the decision maker. She has to be the one controlling her journey. And I just, I was a facilitator for a certain point in time, or a taxi driver. I got her to and from. Yeah. So, and I also found in those early years, a lot of those times where, and I know you touched on it with Em, fixing her and appointments and stuff like that developed, for a period of time. I couldn't even shut a door in a medical setting because for her that was terrifying.
Yeah.
And I reckon that took about 2 years of really safe practice going into hospitals. And, when she was being checked in for Botox, saying to the nurse, I need you to do everything you want to do to me first. Do it slowly. Don't rush. We just need to talk her through it because this is a real medical aversion to having treatments. And I know as a parent I'm trying to make the best decision using all the information I know at this point in time. But again, this is something she has to go through for the rest of her life. And I remember having a stand-up argument with an anaesthetist in the hospital because he didn't listen to me about her. And at that particular time, she was probably a little bit too young to advocate, and the only way she could advocate was through her reactions and her fear. And I remember trying to explain to him that you are not going to be able to get a needle in her arms to put her to sleep. It's not going to work. She has crappy veins. She was a premature baby. By the time you try and shove her, it's going to be all over and she's going to be screaming at you. I need you to just put her to sleep with the mask. No, and I've really felt bullied at that point in time into using a needle to put her to sleep for a treatment. And, of course, he didn't get it first time. He didn't get it second time. And then I said, done, we're done. I told you what I wanted. You completely, and as I said, it was quite a stand-up argument. And in the end, he put her to sleep with a mask. And I remember him saying, well, look how traumatised she is now with the mask. I said, well, you've done that. You traumatised her. Right. So, well, at the moment she's crying. She's going to inhale more of that gas and she's going to be asleep really quick, isn't she? And it was, do you know what was really funny about that? And when I went back to the hospital nursing, because I had a career change, of course, in between. I remember I was actually in surgery with an ENT and we were doing a tonsillectomy and I was telling this story and the nurse goes, oh, my God, I remember you.
Oh, my goodness.
She goes, I was in that room and she said, I was secretly high-fiving you because we hated that anaesthetist. And he left, I would say it's because of me, but no, he left not long after that. But she said, I remember that moment. It's one of the moments that has stayed with me about a parent advocating for their child. But anyway, amazing. Little side note.
Yeah, look, I love how you've gone through that because I think the notion of fixing and disability, it leads right into the whole topic of balance because I hear what you're saying. You're not saying that therapy is just a no-go. No, like you still did it, right? But there was such thing as trying to find that balance.
Absolutely.
Talk us through from your perspective, how would you balance? Because you already said, family holidays, school holidays, and no-go. Like, was there anything else that you did? Was there any tipping points with that? What made you really go down that path to think about it? Because I feel like your thinking around this is so advanced. Like it's like you hadn't lived this life yet. Because that's the thing. You do it for the first time. And you're like, what the heck do I do?
Yeah, and I hope I'm getting it right.
Right. But your thought process from that. Like, talk us through that a little bit.
So I think with balance, I have 4 kids. So I had...
I knew that would come in eventually.
It's hard to balance regardless of what's happening with 4 kids. So I had 4 kids. My eldest was 5 when the girls were born. And I remember him saying to my husband, are all babies born in boxes? Because when he went into the special care nursery, there was all these babies in boxes. So he's like, wow, babies come in boxes. Sorry, JP. So he was 5. I had the girls and then, surprise at the end, had another one. So at one point in time, I had 3 under 2 and a 7-year-old. So life is really busy. I remember I actually had a really beautiful physio at King Eddie's. Arlette. And I remember her saying to me, it's not about trying to fit all of these therapies on top of life. You have to fit them in your life. It's just what you do.
Yeah.
And Em says that to me every day. She said, Mum, getting out of bed is therapy. Like, don't worry about it. I'm all good. So I think that was one of the things that I took on. She said, you can't do it all. You've got 4 kids.
Yeah.
Your life isn't all about therapy. It's family and what fits in on top of that. So that was really good advice. And so I took that on quite early. It just took a while to sort of really sink in.
Of course. Yeah.
So when you have 4 kids, and back then, like you said, there was no NDIS. So you got block funded and you got a certain amount of physio appointments and that was it. So everything else you had to do was at your own financial expense. So I remember at that time, things that were really huge were like Napa and going away to Napa for like 4 weeks and it was going to be like $10,000 or whatever. Yeah. And I remember just going, well, that is never going to happen because we have 4 children. And as much as I love you, Em, the world doesn't revolve around you. Yeah. We can't afford it. So that was something that I just blocked out immediately. That was never going to be in our picture because we have 4 children. We couldn't afford it.
Purely from a commitment, financial perspective, let alone
everything.
What it does. Yeah.
What do I do with the other 3 kids who are all under 10 and, you know, 2 while we drag her across the other side of the country or the world or whatever to try and do this intensive therapy that I knew nothing about really and does it work or is it whatever. So I thought I can't do that. So then I think that jumps to your other word, comparison, that we can come back to. So there was a lot of things that were just financially out of our picture because, you know, my husband had just started a new business. There was just like 4 kids, new business, no money, like, you know, like
fun.
It was tough, but it was great. So I think that was one thing that actually initially probably, you know, where you think it might have hindered us, actually really helped us have a balanced life.
Beautiful, And
I remember
looked at your resources,
absolutely,
time and money.
That's right. And I think, like you said, when you look at family, it's not just your immediate blood relatives. We had, and you would have seen that at the birthdays, we had an army of people that became our family. And there's only in those early days, very few people that I trusted enough to be the ones that were my children's family if I couldn't be there. Yeah. So, you know, we engaged them and they became, you know, very much a part of our life and they didn't see they loved her. They didn't see her disability as, they themselves loved learning about disability and they often say they're richer for it because they've experienced something that they never experienced in their lifetime either. So it's really changing how they feel about disability and how their kids feel about disability. Sure. So, you know, when you grow up and one of your best friends has a physical disability and, you know, I remember this vividly, they were playing chasey on my front lawn and Em was in her walker and so Em can't run so they were playing walk chasey. Oh. And I just remember looking out and going, what are you doing? Beautiful. And they're like, we're playing walk chasey. And I just remember thinking, this is the best thing ever.
Isn't it? I love
kids
that.
Just get it.
Yes. We follow their lead.
They do. So I just remember at that point going, I have nothing to worry about here.
Yeah.
She, you know,
and that came from you prioritizing family.
Probably,
Yeah. Without, you know, because that's the other part of it. The other word is guilt, which I hear all the time.
But you know what? You have guilt regardless. I think you have guilt regardless of whether you have just because you have children. It doesn't matter if they have a disability or not. You feel guilty. I remember having a conversation in the car with my eldest son, and I think he would have been about 10. And you know, I was just sitting back and reflecting, going, "How are you 10?" I feel like only the other day you were born, then the girls were born, and then 5 years have gone by and you're 10. And I remember going, you know, mate, I know that life's really busy and I know that, you know, the last few years we've had lots of appointments and we've, you know, had physio and, you know, I know that sometimes that takes up your time and, you know, I just want you to know that I'm always here for you and if you, you know, you're important to me and I love you and blah, blah, you know, went through all of that with him and he turned around and goes, so can I stay at James's tonight?
I heard you, Mum, okay. I'm fine.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm doing something okay. But I think family became a really powerful ally to all of them, but to both my girls and in particular Em, having, you know, a big brother at one end and a little brother at the other and a twin sister who is also living that the same disability but differently. Family to me was really important and I think when you have a big family, we prioritised going away and reconnecting and going away from all the busyness and the noise that is life and therapy and hospitals and stuff like that. And so we did and we still do, we do heaps of caravanning and camping. And sometimes, you know, much to we'd just get there and go, oh, Em, I probably didn't research this, but, you know, we'll make it work. And recently we upgraded our caravan and we've taken out the bunks and it's just an adult's caravan now with a toilet and a shower. And so the kids all got swags for Christmas, and Em walks into the caravan the other day and she goes, do you know I've waited my whole life to have a caravan with a toilet and a shower? Do you know how much easier that would have been? And I'm like, well, you can still use it. So, you know, I feel like sometimes we've made decisions and done stuff and then thought about disability afterwards.
Yeah.
And I guess we have that luxury with Em is that she's, you know, an ambulant wheelchair user, and we can, you know, it makes it probably a little bit less tricky. Like if we rock up and it's really sandy, I know that she'll be able to manage. I don't have to have a power chair through sand. So we're probably have a little bit of an easier time. But we do book things and probably don't always think about how that might impact.
Because all family members are equal in a value.
Absolutely,
important.
yeah. And a lot of the time it's them going, we want to do this. I'm like, okay, let's go. And then we're like, oh, okay, probably should have looked at that.
Yeah.
But
by doing so, everyone's got buy-in. Everyone's in it together.
Yeah. And it's good. I love listening to the kids talk about and decide, you know, what we're doing and where we're doing and why. So and all of their input. And some of the hardest things we've done has actually been at Em's insistence. Like we went up to Kakadu and Darwin, and we're up around there, and we caravanned all the way through. And we went to one of the gorges, and I can't even remember where it is now, but it was beautiful. But you had to walk up to the top to be able to see this.
Yeah.
And again, a memory flashed up the other day, and I remember she had a little walking cane, and she some part of it was actually quite good for her. They had rails, but then she had her siblings and her cousins to help her when it was tough. So she got up there, and it was the hugest sense of accomplishment that she'd done all those steps.
Yeah.
And we're like, see, physio pays off.
Yeah. It does work.
It does work. And same with, you know, we during COVID, we finally bought a new house.
Yeah.
My husband and I got COVID and we were at home and we were looking online and we bought a house.
I love the story.
And we actually went and saw it once after we recovered and didn't take the kids at all because I think they were all at their own things, and we ended up putting in an offer and it got accepted. And then the day that we brought the kids in going, surprise, Em's looked at it and she's gone, 3 sets of stairs. Are you kidding? Like she goes, you buy a house with 3 sets of stairs with someone who had cerebral palsy. I'm like, She goes, well, I guess it's good physio.
I love that.
So, I think balance for us, it has been, it definitely ties into guilt because I think, you know, with parents, you'll have parental guilt no matter what. But when you have, you know, a child with a disability and you're comparing to, and you're hearing all of the other things that families are doing, there is naturally this sense of guilt that, oh, my God, I'm not doing enough. And that's, oh, my God, I didn't do her stretches last night. That's going to impact her for the rest of her life. So it's really stopping and putting those things into perspective and going, you know what, she was really tired. She didn't want to do her stretches last night. I'm not going to force her to do that. She's not going to be worse off tomorrow morning when she wakes up. It's okay. So I think it was really just looking at that bigger picture beautiful. Because I never wanted her, because I had lots of friends that were doing loads of therapy, like every minute was jam-packed with therapy. And I just remember thinking, I never, ever, ever want my child to look back and go, yay, my life was great because all I did was therapy. Because she's cognitively aware of everything that's happening. She's studying, she's smart, she's intelligent. She is absolutely all over what that means. And so I never wanted her to look back and just go, ugh. Like every spare second I had, you had something filled with it. And even like in the early days, like buying a toy. And everything. Oh, my God. I remember doing therapy.
How does this meet her goals?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, let's keep posting that coin in the piggy bank. She's done it. She's nailed it. Can we move on? Like, I can't tell you the struggle with just buying a toy for the sake that it was a toy. And that it didn't have some kind of therapy. So she got lots of soft toys and dolls that had nothing to do with therapy whatsoever. But so even that, like you feel guilty about every single...
Maximising every opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think that's where I just, in the end, stepped back and had to go, would I do this for my other children? Would I take away the fun and best parts of their life and jam it full of therapy that, you know, when she was little, she didn't love.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
No, that's right.
It's like making me touch pop sticks every day. I wouldn't do it.
For context, Jen hates pop sticks. Something we all, as therapists, knew very early on. Do not bring them in the
There's
home.
no pop stick play in our house. I think that was the one thing that really helped get that balance was that you just have to stop comparing and you really have to start listening to your child.
Yes.
And she, from a very early age, was really capable of telling me what she did and didn't like. And, you know, it took me a little while to understand that. But I absolutely loved the moment that, you know, that's evolved where I have completely stepped outside of organising any aspect of her life. And I'll be honest, I never thought that would happen. In those early days, I thought I'll always be a carer and a mum and an advocate. I'll always be fighting the battles or, you know, because NDIS is hard sometimes.
Yes.
The world is hard sometimes. But so obviously at the Perth Children's Hospital, part of PMH PCH for 17 years. And I remember probably around about 13, 14 years going, oh my, we're going to have to exit soon and I'm not ready and I don't know what we're going to do and life stops and you stop having a disability once you leave the Children's Hospital and how are we going to get services and all that. And I remember actually being quite panicked about it. And I put off the exit because I'm like, no, we don't have to go. We're not ready. And then you wouldn't believe it, but I never attended any of her exit appointments or any of her last appointments from the time she was probably 16.
Wow.
So she did it all on her own. Yeah. She had her support worker take her and obviously her support worker, though, has been with us for a long time. She doesn't know all the ins and outs of course. Her life. Yeah. And Em sat there, ran her own session, articulated everything, advocated for herself, sorted it all out. And I remember the rehab doctor ringing me afterwards and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry I was working. I couldn't come. She goes, you didn't need to.
Yeah, she had it covered.
She said, she is an incredible young woman. You should be so proud. She absolutely advocated for herself. She had everything covered.
Wow.
She's so ready to go. See you later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's such a switch of thinking I can never leave this hospital in those early days. Like these are my people. I can never leave. This is safe and secure I forgot. I didn't go to your last one ever. So I never said goodbye to people that have been, you know, part of her life for such a long time. But I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything serves its purpose. And I think through everything you said already, what you have done, I mean, I think what every parent wants for their child is for them to have a great life.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't
Disabled
matter.
or not.
That's right. Yep. Is regardless of that. So, and what is so important along the way is that they do have a voice.
Yes.
Because anyone that's been silenced, they're not going to live their great life.
No.
And that applies even more so for children with disabilities. Yep. And so by allowing her to advocate, and yes, Em can talk very, very well, and there'll be some people who have children who don't have those communication skills, but we can still use their voice.
Absolutely.
When they're crying, when they're not crying, like they are still relaying pleasure and what they don't like.
Absolutely.
And you just have to listen. And in the case for Em, she learnt to use her voice and how to speak up for herself because she was given the opportunity to practice all along the way.
Yeah.
She didn't just suddenly have to go, oh, now today is the day.
Yeah, I wasn't ready.
I haven't done this until today. Like You've trained that from the beginning.
And I think, you know, it's naturally it's so much easier to wrap her in cotton wool and keep her safe and do it all for her. But it doesn't help.
No.
And, you know, like I remember even the one of our early physios being so set on, could she use a knife and fork? Can she use a knife and fork yet?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, but I have twins and a baby. Yeah. I have to feed all of them and get out of the house by 8:30 so I can drop my son at school. If I let them try and feed themselves,
oh my gosh,
we're never going to leave the house. It's not that she can't or she doesn't want to. It's that just for this, I'd have to feed them because I have got stuff to do.
Yes.
I've got other children that I have stuff to do for.
Yes.
So, it's just all those little things that you think about. They're like, that's actually not important that she can use her knife and fork yet. I don't care.
So you were forced to prioritise because you had to consider the needs of everyone in the family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
So using a knife and fork at a year or 12 months or wherever, 18 months, whatever they were asking, I actually didn't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's
Doesn't matter.
not important. And I think along the way, especially, you know, those earlier days where you couldn't so much choose your service either. So you was, as you said, you were stuck into particular physios and stuff like that. You know, I remember coming across therapists who, and I thought, and that's when you realise the good, you know, the good, the not so good, and you're never looking at my kid again. A lot of those therapists also made you feel guilty.
Right.
So I had a lot of guilt, not from anything else, but the therapist making me, so you didn't do the stretches this week?
Okay.
So did you do those exercises I left? I'm like, I've got 4 kids. They were sick. I didn't get out of bed. You know,
And when you feel like you've got to make excuses to that person, it's not right.
That's right.
No,
and so I remember a lot of the guilt that I felt had nothing to do with my family unit, but it was the outside forces. So, it was the outside people that were involved in our life. Yep. And so that's where, and I guess with disability, you know, you get, in those early days, again, it was different to NDIS, but you get to a point where you're with this therapist. Oh my God, they're getting married. Oh, they're going to have a baby and leave. I'm going to have to get another one. We're going to have to tell our story again. So
it's true,
it's stressful because the only aspect that you have control of is this person.
Some sort of stability.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So any change in that stability was hard to deal with. But I think with some of those early experiences, you're like, no, that's not right. Don't make me feel that way.
Good.
Or please don't tell my child what she can't do.
Yeah.
Because that's actually not up to you.
Yes.
That's her goal. So how about let's work towards her goal. Let's stop focusing on what she can't do and what she can do.
Yeah, beautiful.
So it was a lot of those early experiences in that block funding that changed the way I felt about things moving forward. Yeah. And I think one of the best things, and I don't know if Em touched on it, is that when it was around about 13 or 14, she interviewed her own people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so she had about 3 or 4 physio interviews and I think there was 2 OTs that she interviewed. So she, put out a call on social media. She had things come through. She went through them and then she decided who she wanted to meet and she interviewed her own team.
Wow.
So I love that because to me that was that final package for her is that she has complete control and ownership of the people that help her reach her goals. It was not about them. It was about her.
It was about her. And we've heard that so much in research in the young adult space is that it's a big problem is therapists really projecting their goals onto kids. Yep. And that's what they didn't like. And even more so as an adult, they want autonomy.
Yes.
And ultimately, that's what we all want.
Absolutely.
So we have to stop and think about that for a little bit.
Absolutely.
And these things aren't in isolation, are they?
No, and I think, like I said before, I think I once heard one of our disability activists say nothing about them without them.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me.
Yeah,
and I think unless the person with the disability is the driver and in control of what happens, that's never going to be long term for them. They're never going to own it. They're never going to want to continue with it. And in the reality is she goes to the gym. She loves going to the gym. And for her, that is for her to be strong and fit outweighs any amount of other therapy that could happen for her. Yeah. So she's in control of that.
Yeah.
I think balancing for us was because we were a family and we had to.
Beautiful.
But I think that actually was helpful more than it hindered. And I'm really glad that I didn't have excess funds to throw away back then.
Yeah, the pressure of having that as well.
That's right. And I remember thinking at that time that just, there's people fundraising for this and and I remember thinking that's so much pressure to great if that's what you want, but you don't have to do that.
There is such thing as too much.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's such thing as the just right, which we need to find. And that just right is sometimes, yes, dictated by the science, but actually also dictated by the person in the family.
Absolutely.
And it's where you meet people where they're at. And I think a good therapist is one that looks at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have to. Otherwise,
and I think there is also that fine line between, like I always, and you will know from previous history, give an inch, take a mile. I remember in the early days, the fall over, laugh and giggle, but move 5 steps forward so we could walk less. She was cheeky. So, obviously as a parent, I'm not going to give everything her way, but it was really empowering her to make the decisions that were best for her.
That's right. Yep. Oh, gosh, I remember those ones really clearly. I'm like, what did you just do there? Calling her out on it as well. I'm going, no. We're going to do that one again.
And the flutter of the eyelashes.
She knew how to do it.
Oh, she did.
Look, she can still do that to me. She can get whatever she wants from me, that girl.
Much.
So, Jen, that was just full of gold. And as something I heard someone say the other day, I'm like, that just made me froth. There was so much content there that is so great for therapists. It's so great for families as they're going through this journey. And it's just great to know that on the other side of it, it's going to be okay.
It is.
It really is. But in the moment, it can seem a bit overwhelming, but that's why thinking about everyone in your world, whether
absolutely
family, that helps you to prioritize, and that was just beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, so great.
I think one of the things I would say just to leave is that you just need to be good enough. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to be present for my kids. I want to have given them the love, the support, the skills, and that doesn't mean burning all ends and burning myself out. I'm good enough, and what we're doing is good enough. It's if you're meeting your goals, it's good enough.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
Beautifully said.
Did we answer all Kate's questions?
I think we did. Yeah, they're all within that. Yes.
I just suddenly had a thought.
No, we weaved it all in. That was brilliant, Kate. You'll be very happy, and I'm sure all our families would love that. That was just so beautiful. So, gosh, if anyone does have questions, Jen's always so generous. I know this. I didn't preempt this beforehand, but you've always offered it.
I will,
so if people do have questions, I can always get in touch with Jen and help to connect that as well, because we can learn so much from each other.
We can.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No.
You don't have to do it again because it's a lonely journey otherwise. So let's do this together.
It is. Yeah. And I've loved my journey.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel, I really do. I've loved it.
I've loved watching you go through the journey, because I think I've just seen you just get stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
I think you are stronger than me at the moment. I see you doing stuff at the gym.
Well,
I'm pretty sure you're stronger than me.
Back at the gym, yeah.
Yeah, it's fabulous. So, you have a life. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Your own life. I mean, you just came back from Bali. You had to arrange this around your holidays with the girls.
And my kids did not go with me.
And the kids did not go. Yeah, they were quite perplexed when I spoke with them.
I know. I feel like it was funny. Reese said to me the other day, Luke and I had been out on a Thursday, and then we had something on a Friday, and we had something on a Saturday, and Reese was like, oh my God, you're never home. I said, I've been home for 23 years. It's my time.
Yes.
So,
fabulous.
But they have a fantastic big brother and his girlfriend who become surrogate parents now.
I love that.
So it's great.
Love that. It's so brilliant. Well, hope you all enjoyed it. Please write in if you've got any questions. And stay tuned for so much more. But for now, thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, and bye to everyone.
Bye-bye.